You got here. All right. So I'm gonna put you in the mind frame of, there's some people right now listening to the show. They don't know you. Mm-hmm. They probably don't even want to know you. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. But they want to know what you've done, and they want to get helped by your story and some of the things that you learned, not only as a human being, but also as a man. You know what I mean? So can you tell us who you are as a person? Who are you?
Man. Well,
And state your name one more time for the record.
My name is Seni Alabi-Isama. I was a high school classmate of Chris, our host here, and I currently own and operate the Smoque Pit in Statesboro, Georgia, which is a modernist barbecue joint, is what we like to call it. We take old school smoking technique and combine it with some more modern preparations, and the results are pretty stunning,
man.
But aside from all that, man, I'm just a human being trying to figure out how this thing works.
That's real. So how did you were you always in business ownership? Were you always an entrepreneur?
I've been pretty entrepreneurial my whole life. Even as a kid, I was the kid with the book bag full of candy at the school, making it happen. That's always been my nature. Always hustling, always grinding.
Right.
From middle school, high school, college on, I've always had multiple irons in the fire.
That's real. So how did you get that mindset? Were you surrounded by other entrepreneurs?
I don't really know. It's kind of been there. I mean, my mom, hardworking woman, single mother, raising 3 boys. Teenage boys at that.
Really?
So she just, bust her butt to make sure we had whatever it was we needed.
That's real.
She's a saint as far as I'm concerned.
That's real.
But that really wasn't her thing. She'd go out and get it done, but the entrepreneurship, maybe I got that from my dad. Not really sure. I guess we're going to get to this manhood mindset thing at some point. But, I wasn't raised with my father. I mean, I know who he is. I know where he is.
For sure.
We did not have the nuclear family, as they call it.
Understood.
But, that's probably something I could accredit to his genetics, maybe, if that's how it works.
It's in the DNA.
If it's in the DNA, then,
right.
Maybe that came from him. But I've just always felt like, I could do it, whatever it is, and I'm not risk averse, even when I probably should be. So, I always say I don't gamble, I don't bet, because I do all the gambling on myself.
That's real. So you just go for broke pretty much. You don't necessarily listen to outside, perspectives on what you can and cannot do.
Well, you should always, listen to as many perspectives as possible.
Okay.
You can always find something to take from even negative points of view. You can always find something to take from that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's your call, your shot, your life, and you have to live with the consequences, be they good or bad.
That's real. So the consequences, man, some of the learning tools that you learn on the way, some of the hardships. And I know a lot of times we on this show, we talk about perseverance. And as an entrepreneur, one thing that I've been told so far for people who own their business, that the expectations have to come from you first, and the expectations have to be very low when it comes to other people. You have to be on your stuff in many different facets of the game.
Yeah, you definitely have to have a certain wherewithal and work ethic on your own. But I would disagree in saying that you should have low expectations of others. I think you should have the highest expectation of others, because people tend to rise to the level that's expected of them, is what I find. And those who can't prove themselves not worthy of your time, effort, or organization. I mean, you know, when you're trying to get something done, you don't need a boat anchor dragging you down.
That's true.
You know,
that is true.
I've found some people, a lot of people actually can get it done. I mean, and there's no judging, there's no prejudgment. You can't look at someone and figure out if they're going to be the right fit.
Right.
A lot of times, I've had the experience where, upon first appearance, I would not think this person was going to be an asset, and they've turned out to be some of the best crew we've ever had.
Right.
So,
right.
You know.
So I think to clarify what I was saying earlier, I was saying, like, you know, when you're an entrepreneur, you can't expect somebody else to sign your checks for you.
Oh, no.
That's what I was talking about.
No, when you're an entrepreneur, you can't even expect to get a check.
Right. Right.
Part of the hustle.
Wow.
But that should never be an indefinite scenario. Like,
right.
At some point, there must be a payoff, or you're just wasting your time.
That's just a limited time only type thing.
So you have to be willing to sacrifice to get to that reward. There are some, you know, grinds out there where the reward will come a lot sooner than others. But no matter what it is, you have to be willing to stick it out, and you have to be willing to make those sacrifices.
Right.
If you're not, just go, you know, get a job. Let someone else sign the checks.
Okay, because it's not everybody's not cut out for it.
No, and listen, that's not a negative. There's absolutely nothing at all wrong with wanting a career, working for, you know, a good company, and you know, getting it done. I mean, at the end of the day, how can everyone be an employer? Then there are no employees.
That's right.
You know, you can't have a staff if everyone's the boss.
Yeah, if everybody was a business owner, everybody's business would crumble.
Exactly. So you need people who are willing to, you know, do the day in, day out work to get it done. As leadership, it's your job to figure out how to maximize their effort and maximize the reward available to all of you for that effort. That's
real. That is real. Okay. All right. So now, your journey as an entrepreneur, right? We talked about some of the things that you think about, but what are some of the things that you actually had to grow through that you can share with us? Like some of the things that you thought your back was against the wall, or there was no way out. What did you have to dig within yourself to find your way out of a situation that you couldn't even really see yourself out of?
Well, I mean, honestly, sometimes there is no way out. Sometimes there is a beginning and there is an end.
Okay.
But that is not a negative. People look at failure as a negative, and failure is not a negative. Failure is a lesson,
right?
And you must learn from that failure. If you just repeat the same failures over and over, that's not a good situation. But
because you're not learning.
All forms of failure will teach you something.
Right.
So I mean, you know, I went from a computer business to the restaurant business with absolutely zero experience. I would not recommend that to anyone. I think that is a terrible idea.
I can dig it. I understand.
I think I was halfway insane to even attempt it. But at the end of the day, what happened was I became much more confident in myself and my abilities, and also much more in love with the craft that I chose to go into. Restaurants are businesses, but they are also a craft. If you have a tremendous love for food and hospitality, you can find a very rewarding and fulfilling life in the restaurant business. But I will tell you, it is unbelievably difficult. It is something you will be married to. So, if you're in a relationship, you must tell your significant other that you have something else.
Somebody on the side.
Someone on the side, and it is. Definitely. I spend far more time in the restaurant than I spend with my wife.
Oh, wow.
I wish that weren't the case, but again, I got very lucky in that department. She is a fantastic woman, and she stands behind me, or I should say beside me, in all things. She's as hardcore as they come. I mean, she has dealt with all sorts of ups and downs.
That's real.
And has never ever flinched, not one bit.
Respect to the first letter. Miss Netta, how you doing? Hopefully you listen. We will listen when you see the recording and everything, but much respect to her. Most definitely, because you need that type of support. I mean, from family, friends, but not only that, you better have, you know what I mean? And you need that understanding. A lot of people in the entrepreneurial endeavors, man, they have people that may not understand what all it takes in order to run a business. It's a whole nother life added on to your life. Is that am I hearing you correctly?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. So now, one of the things that you told me, just briefly, that it's one of the hardest things that you could do as an entrepreneur. And you say you would not suggest people just getting something if they didn't know anything about it. So I know you had some feelings soon as you got into it. I know some people might have had their opinions. You might even had those opinions of yourself. Can you take us through that process of that tense feeling of what in the world did I just do?
Oh, absolutely.
And where you are right now?
Yeah, I mean, in the very beginning, you really have no roadmap. You have no clue. You have ideas based on things you might have seen or heard in the past. But when standing in front of it, making this decision to go all in on a restaurant, and I chose to do things in sort of a non-conventional way, in the way we got into this business, in that we decided, and I say we, I mean myself and my team, we decided to operate restaurants that made things from scratch, use as many local purveyors as possible, and just tried to put out, the best executed version of as many cuisines as we could.
Right.
And there weren't always the greatest executed ideas, but trial and error, we began to put out what I feel like was some pretty outstanding food, and giving people some really great service in an area that, for all intents and purposes, had lacked both of those things. I think what I learned more than anything else was, if you give your crew the best equipment and all your effort and believe in them, they can accomplish things that you just never would see possible.
Right.
I mean, in a very, very small kitchen, I remember this was one of the highlights of the first restaurant. We did a 6-course meal for 50 people. It was a private event, and they shut the restaurant down and they wanted the absolute best that we had. They weren't concerned with price, the menu, price, anything. They said, listen, just wow everyone.
Right.
And as a cook, that is daunting, because you just don't know how people will react and how far they really want you to go.
For sure.
But with this particular engagement, it was outstanding, and we executed all of these things a la minute, which means all to order, 50 people in a small kitchen.
Yeah,
I think part of
a small window too, 50 people, and I'm pretty sure they want to eat right now.
Yeah, we got it done. I mean, I was super proud of that staff. Front of the house, back of the house, everybody just kind of pitched in and became one, and it was just an amazing thing to watch, because none of us had any real experience doing these types of things, and we just gutted it out and put out some beautiful food, gave some great service, and just absolutely floored a lot of people.
That's real.
And it was then I realized that we could, rise to the occasion, and we could be as good as anyone anywhere. Where you are has nothing to do with where you could be.
Man,
you know,
say it,
I
bro.
mean, I was born in Lagos, Nigeria.
Tell it.
You know, I've had a chance to live in quite a few places, visited quite a few places, and where you start has nothing to do with where you end up,
Right.
and what your trajectory is. You know, that's just the beginning.
You said something earlier. You mentioned hospitality. What is something that you think people have a total misunderstanding about hospitality?
I can tell you really easily. Hospitality is not enslavement. They're not servants. It's service. They're not servants. It's service.
It's a
We're doing a service.
Okay.
And I really think everyone at some point should work in the service industry, whether it be a restaurant,
Right.
a bar, a hotel. You should experience what it is to have to serve the public.
Right.
And once you experience that, I think it changes you as a person. It helps you to understand that, you know, even when you're having a bad day, someone could be having a worse day.
Yeah.
And with that being the case, there's a certain amount of fulfillment that comes from being able to improve, you know, people's worst days. A lot of times people think about restaurants in celebratory situations. It didn't occur to me until it happened multiple times where people would come in after funerals. That was something I didn't realize was a thing.
Right.
And we had experience with families coming in after funerals and doing all we could to not be in the way, but be there for them.
Wow.
You know, provide the small comfort we could. I mean, we don't know these people. We don't know their loved one. We don't know the situation.
Right.
But in the, you know, minutes or hour or so that they're going to spend with us, we're going to do all we can to alleviate, you know, any modicum of stress that we can on them. We do not want to contribute to the grief, but see if we can help them out a little bit.
That's real. That is so real, man. One of the things that you just said that stuck out to me, you said it is a service, but they are not servants. And sometimes you have to educate your customers when they're getting a service that they actually think they have servants.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So, like, for a person that's out there that's trying to start their restaurant or any type of business where you have to interact with human beings on a steady basis, and you're giving a service, and you're having to train your employees how to handle difficult situations when they're totally disrespected or they're looked down upon, or really just, you know, they're like, man, I can't keep going out there and these people talking to me like this. What would you say to that person?
I tell my staff, you know, there's this thing where you hear that the customer is always right. That's not true.
Thank you.
Handle that accordingly. You don't have to stoop to their level,
Right.
but you also don't have to be someone's punching bag.
Right.
And if they don't understand that their interaction with you is a negative situation,
Right.
then just let me know.
Right.
And I got your back.
Right.
But at the same time, you know, do all you can to provide service and comfort
Right.
for your guest.
It's almost like being a firefighter. You just because you provide a service don't mean you can disrespect the firefighter because you're having a bad day. They're providing a service,
Exactly.
but they're not your servant. You know what I mean? They weren't supposed to wake up that morning, you know, and take the flames out of your house.
Hey, listen,
you were in need, and they gave you a service.
You know, we hear a lot of negativity in the media about first responders. Let's say, you know, police officers bear the brunt of it. And I always try to think about for all the idiot officers out there.
Right.
There are countless,
Right.
truly dedicated and just humble human beings that have decided to take on a career that puts their lives in danger. They are constantly entering, the unknown. I mean, could you put yourself in their shoes for a second? On any given night, you're approaching an automobile and you don't know anything about its passengers,
right,
or driver, or what's going on in that car,
right,
and you do this day in, day out.
You signed up
to contribute, to contribute to the betterment of society is what we want to see
right.
from those, individuals.
Right.
There are, people who take those positions and ruin them.
Right.
But you cannot let those people be thought of as the standard. I've had plenty of interactions with law enforcement, some negative, vast majority pretty mundane, and quite a few positive.
Right.
They are people just like we're people. This is the path they chose. Be glad someone did. To just beat up on a civil servant or a public servant such as a police officer, I think is unfair.
Okay.
But at the same time, it is up to them, those good officers, to call out and put on Front Street the ones who are ruining their profession and ruining their good name.
That's real.
It's really not something the public can do. Right. It has to be done from within.
Right.
And I think what the public is trying to do is make enough noise so that at some level those officers begin to look at the ones that are ruining it for the rest of them. I personally, huge respect for them.
Right.
Huge respect for them.
Because I couldn't do what they do.
No. I mean, there are many unfortunate events that happen every day around the world, and there are individuals who jump in the middle of that fray, whether it be law enforcement, military, paramedics, firefighters, and they do things that we make up stories about and call them superheroes.
Right.
They do it every day.
Straight up.
So, that's my perspective on something that I think doesn't always get talked about in the proper context in many communities.
Okay.
So, for the vast majority of outstanding individuals who have dedicated themselves to the service of humanity,
right,
my hat is off to you.
Right.
Anything I can do to, say thank you, I try to whenever I interact with you guys. So, again, thank y'all.
Respect, man. Respect. We actually got a shout out, man, from Big J, Class 9-8, man.
Oh, goodness.
Big J. But they've had the mentality or the mindset of a servant, and they've been putting themselves in situations maybe in harm's way when they didn't have to be, because they thought the job consisted of ill treatment depending on what you're trying to do. Like, say for instance, I'm thinking about a custodial person, you know what I mean, or a teacher, or anybody who's out there really just making sure that our environment is a little bit better. Right. But they might have been trained or might have been told, hey, yeah, you do this, but when people say this, you need to, keep your head down, or don't talk back and all of this other good stuff. But some of the stuff that you've been telling me is that you are not the position.
No.
You're providing the service. You are not the service.
That is correct.
And I think that's very groundbreaking, man, because that's the first time I've ever heard it like that. I thought, a servant, I'm a servant. No, you are a human being providing a service, and it's almost like that's your product for the moment. You know what I'm saying? If I made frames or if I made shoes, I'm not the shoe, bro.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? If I'm providing you with shoes, you can't talk to me with anything like that. If I'm providing you with a service, you don't have the right to disrespect me.
Absolutely.
And I think that's groundbreaking, man. Hopefully if somebody's listening to this, if they've been, because a lot of people have good hearts, and sometimes we talk about the dangers of being that good person, you know what I'm saying, rather than just being yourself.
Listen, nobody's perfect. There are no flawless individuals on this planet. We all are in a, I guess I don't even call it a race. I mean, we all start this journey. And we have to figure it out as we go. We look to our parents and leadership for guidance, but they're on the same journey.
Right.
They're teaching you from their own experiences. And theirs aren't always the best ways.
Parents are like upperclassmen.
Think about Look, as at the end of the day, man, life should teach you that they're people too. They're not infallible. With a straight face, they'll lie to you. They're not infallible, not at all. We're on this journey, and I like to say this to people sometimes. I said, before you are a gender, before you're a race, before you're any occupation, the very first thing you are is a human being.
That's straight up.
And every single one of us, from the worst of us to the best of us, we all start the same way.
Butt naked.
Completely helpless, completely useless. And some soul decides to help us out.
Provide a service.
So remember, no matter who you are, no matter what you've accomplished or what you haven't accomplished,
right,
at some point, somebody helped you.
That's real.
Somebody helped you. Always remember that.
Have you always been in a position where you were open to receive help, or did you have to grow into it?
Well, listen, pride is a very unique thing. Pride can help you to create and to make and to do some outstanding and amazing things. Taking pride in your work is a fantastic thing, but pride can also, cause you to miss opportunity.
I think you're talking about foolish pride.
Well, pride is pride.
Pride is pride.
Pride is pride. I think to be human is to be flawed. You look at the amazing things we've done, and you look at the amazingly stupid things we've done. Usually right behind each other. We do something great and immediately do something awful behind it, because it's sort of the human condition.
Right.
But I would love to see a situation where we focused on the good and the positive and what we have in common, other than besides the differences. I think we have far more in common than we have differences.
Straight up.
And that means across all nations, all religions, all creeds. We're all on the same ball of dirt,
right,
trying to figure this thing out.
Right.
It doesn't matter how much you have or how little you have. We all end up in the same place.
And you've already said this, but I kind of want you to elaborate on it, because some people can look at you and automatically assume, hey, well, that's a black business owner. You know what I'm saying? Well, people put race on you, and they want you to play a certain race game or whatever.
Hey, man, the whole construct of race is so unbelievably stupid. it's misogynistic, that they get called out immediately, and they views and sexist agendas. You you are where natural selection failed.
God, man, hold up. That was intellectually, I would say, like a drop kick to the soul, bro.
I don't see how. It's just true.
The natural selection failed you.
Hey, I mean,
that was deep, bro.
You know, I mean, look.
Somebody Googling stuff right now. I can tell.
Hey, man, I just, life's too short, man.
One thing about it, as not only a friend of yours, but I've been patronizing you for a while, and I observe how you run your business. Just from the outside looking in, I don't know if I'm pretty sure I've already told you, but I've learned how you interact with people. One thing about all of your restaurants that I've been to, that you've owned, I've noticed that you as the owner provide a specific service to your customers, especially when your time permits. And if it doesn't, you make it. I've seen you drop something to say, no, I got to go speak to my customers real quick. What does that add to your business?
I just all I wanted to communicate is that we care. Right. You know, you're not just a customer. In fact, we don't even use the word customer. That's a bad word for us. They're all guests.
Guests.
You know, because forever how long or short your visit may be, you are our guest, and you want to treat a guest with a certain amount of, you know, respect and reverence, but you know, at some point you will be someone's guest, and you only hope that they will do the same for you. I mean, if you've ever experienced terrible service, you know, at any business, you know how that makes you feel. So if it's your business, you don't ever want anyone to feel that way. And we're not perfect. I mean, you know, we don't always get it right. Right. But and listen, for our guests, this is one thing I implore you to do. If something is wrong, if something is amiss, please communicate with us about what that thing is as soon as possible. You are not a hindrance. You are not a burden. You are our guest. And if it is something that is within our power to correct, then we will. But be kind in that. You know, these attitudes, this feeling of like
superiority,
entitlement and superiority when you're being served at a restaurant, it needs to stop. Right. It needs to stop. Just, you know, have a good time. Right. It takes so much effort to be unhappy.
That is true, man. It takes a lot of energy, bro. It takes too much.
It does.
It really just does. One of the things that I always wanted to know was, how in depth do you have to think about? I know you've already talked to us about some of the mistakes, or not necessarily mistakes, but some of the things like, wow, I should have probably thought about this before I did that. That perseverance that a lot of our young people are going through right now, because we pretend that we're talking to 8, 9, 10, all the way up to 18-year-olds, 20, 30. Pretty much anybody who understands what we're talking about. That's who we're talking to. And we have a lot of things about perseverance and not letting your problems be your pathway. You know what I'm saying? There are things for you to learn from. For somebody right now who's deciding whether they should give something up or not, and they've been at it for a while, things are just not even going their way at all, and it's getting to the point they feel stupid. People are telling them they're stupid, but they thought originally that it was a good idea. What would you say to them?
You know, it's tricky. You must ask yourself, have you done all you can to increase your knowledge, your skill set, and your execution in whatever field it is you've chosen? Okay. If that answer is yes, and it's just not working, then you need to ask yourself, are you in the right environment? Are you in a place where people will be receptive to your skill set, your craft. Sometimes you can do everything right, and you just be in the wrong place or at the wrong time. You might be ahead of the curve.
Right.
You know, I think to not necessarily give up would be the answer, but maybe redirect.
Right.
Because honestly, you never give up. Even if you scrap the whole thing and do something else, you didn't give up.
Right.
You just changed your plan.
Right.
You know, you have to be dynamic. You have to be fluid. That's why water always wins. It's not always going to go the way it wants to go.
Right.
Actually, no, water does always go the way it wants to go.
Yeah.
Because whatever's in its way,
it's eventually going to get
it's eventually going to find a way around it, through it, under it. That's why you have things like the Grand Canyon. You know?
Man.
Water will find a way.
It really does. It really does.
Like I said, we're what, 76% water? So
yeah.
I mean, we will find a way. Be that answer that you're looking for. Look inward. Look into yourself and say, what can I do to improve this situation? If that answer is change the situation or do something else, then that might be the answer.
Straight up.
You know, you just got to roll with it. I've asked myself that many times. I mean, you know, you have to have a certain amount of bullheadedness, let's say, to be in any business, because there will always be people who tell you, well, that's not how you do it. You should do it this way, or that's never going to work. I mean, that's just the nature of business and people. But if you know you got something, and you ride that thing out as long as you possibly can. When you feel like you don't have something anymore, then maybe it's time for a change. But that doesn't mean you just give up. You just redirect.
Yeah, and people, basically what I'm hearing you say, man, you got to be careful what you call quitting. You know, it's not quitting if something is killing you. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, let me tell you, man. I experienced that personally.
That's real.
A couple years back, and the stresses of business had me to the point where for the first time in my life, I experienced headaches, tightness in my chest, shortness of breath. And it was at that moment I realized, I said, man, stress can kill you.
Yes, straight up.
So I'm going to put down the stressor.
Yep.
One shot at this thing called life, man. Don't let anything shorten it or waste it. Even if it's your passion, don't let your passion kill you.
Yeah, man. Dang, that's dynamic. I think some people have this go hard or go home mentality about a lot of things that we're doing. I think we have to. This next question, manhood. I know a lot of people have their own definitions of what manhood is, and we've gotten to your we got into your mindset already in the show about how you think about certain things when you start talking about your knowledge, skill set, execution, the service versus the servants. You know, some of the things that you talk about being a human first before you are the characteristics that somebody put on you. So right now, the name of the show is Manhood Mindset. So I'm going to ask you to define manhood. What is it?
I'm not going to take a slight at manhood because, any politically correct conversation we have to have now. Because I or anything else you are like, but what it is to be a man,
right?
To me, it just means being the best human you can be. So, we have these gender roles that we've placed on ourselves. the man is the provider, the woman is the nurturer. So as a man, you shouldn't nurture your seed.
Right.
As a woman, she shouldn't provide for her family.
Right.
I'm pretty sure if you look at nature, that is not how this thing works.
Man.
And whether you like it or not, you can put up as many walls and as much air conditioning as you like. You are still in nature, buddy.
Straight up, because nature will take your house back.
Nature. To be a man is to be a good human.
Wow.
To be a steward of this planet.
Wow.
To be a provider of care for all you encounter. You see, we've taken the manhood mentality and turned it into this hyper masculine aggressive mold.
Yeah, like a cyborg or something.
And I think it's led to a lot of destruction and death around this world. And I think it needs to stop. It just needs to stop.
Yeah.
You can't look at a backwards thinking group of people who do primitive, torturous things to each other and those that they call their enemies, and then interact with them in a primitive and torturous way and expect anything to change.
Right.
That's foolishness. That does not work. We've proven that over and over and over through the centuries. You can't bomb civility into people.
Right.
You cannot shoot civility into people. And you will never be able to kill enough people to end strife. So what has to change? What has to change is what we call manhood.
Wow. I'm listening. I'm taking notes, bro.
I hadn't seen a whole.
That's real.
I haven't seen it.
Saw some in the church.
Yeah. Masculinity is not a negative thing, but left unchecked, it can mutate into a very, very dangerous situation. You know
what I'm hearing you say? You said manhood is to be the best human you can be, and toxic masculinity is manhood without humanity.
There it is.
That's what it is. Inhumane manhood. That's what toxic masculinity is. And I'm not sure if I heard anybody ever put it that way before, but that's some groundbreaking stuff you just said there. And I appreciate you sharing that, because I was just over here trying to be as quiet as possible, because you was just on the roll, bruh. Manhood is to be the best human you can be. And people who are out there pretending to be men while they're being the worst human they can be, they're not men.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They are detractors and a scourge on our species. They're doing things to negate all the good that we're capable of. And that's just my perspective. There are people who might listen to that and say I'm full of it, you know, whatever. But for all the death and destruction we see every day, where is it getting us? Where is the progress?
Where do you see the future of manhood from what you've seen, especially looking at our youth?
I think we can win. I think we can win because when I look at the youth, the hate is not there. And the more, look, I'm just going to say it ain't going to sound popular, but listen.
Let's roll.
As enough of the right people die off, we were talking about the Papa earlier and his nonsense. You know, he's gonna drop dead soon enough, and then he can't keep hating everybody, and that's what has to stop, man. You look around at the nonsense we deal with based on the decisions of just older hateful idiots.
Some of those people in them old pictures where it was just horrible stuff happening, they still alive, man.
Oh yeah. And listen, that's not only in America. America isn't the only place on the planet where old hateful people live. There's old hateful people everywhere
on the planet.
I don't know why they so old and hateful. They had their chance. Why are you still blowing people up?
They've been mad since they were 30.
Look, If you lived through, one of the world wars, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storms,
all the Afghanistan,
all the Russo-Afghan wars, all the wars on the African continent.
Yeah, man.
Australia, China, all over Europe. We know this doesn't work. Period.
Research, people.
It's just pointless. You cannot fight your way to goodness.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Right.
That's not how it works because there's nothing good about it.
Right.
And let me tell you something. Again, I started off, we were talking about, our first responders and military and all that.
Right.
I respect any person willing to give up their life in protection of humanity.
Right.
But that's what they should be giving it up for.
Right.
Humanity.
Right.
Not for some ideal,
Right.
not for some idea, but for these people. And if you aren't, if old men are sending young men to die, then that's not how it works.
Right.
That's not how it should be.
Right.
If you want, look, hey, I'm all about it. They should just go hang out one-on-one, give them like a baseball bat and a mace, and just let them go bash each other's heads in and see if that solves their problem.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, no matter how fancy the weapons of war are,
Right.
it's just another way to bash each other's heads in.
Right. But you're doing it to affect more people. More people.
Man, dude, you look at Syria, you look at Libya, you look at Nigeria, where I'm from, you look at Niger, you look at the Democratic Republic of the Congo. You have people all over this planet
Right.
that are just being mowed down.
Wow.
And we know better. And to know better is supposedly to do better. But we don't seem to be doing better.
Right.
You notice I'm not naming any specific group or person. I'm
humans.
talking about us as a species.
Yeah. Not a race, a species.
We're screwing this thing up. We're screwing it up. But listen, here's the thing. We can't win this one. This planet will not be done in by us. It will not be done in by us.
Mama Earth is so undefeated.
Let me tell you.
She's old.
She ain't gonna lose.
She ain't moving nowhere.
We gonna lose. She ain't gonna lose. George Carlin, man, one of my favorite comedians.
Oh yeah, he's
ever,
a beast.
Man.
George Carlin is a beast.
Man, that dude said something about plastic and how everyone's freaking out about, global warming and the oceans are dying and plastic is killing everything and it just made perfect sense to me. I said, man, everything that's in a piece of plastic came out of the earth at some point.
It really did.
It might be rearranged and reconstituted to make something that's quite unnatural. But at the end of the day, plastic ain't gonna stop this thing.
It
might stop us from eating.
Yes.
We might all starve to death. But this planet ain't gonna go nowhere.
It's a difference between the end of the world and the end of the earth. It may be an end of several worlds.
It might be the end of humanity.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna be the end of this planet.
No, Earth is undefeated, bro.
This little ball gonna keep spinning. Now, how long we stay on it, that's completely up to us.
That's real.
And we are not making the best decisions, people.
That's real.
We are not making the best decisions.
Let's get into your specific business. I want to talk about the Smoque Pit, man.
Okay, let's talk about
I really want to know, because I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I followed you at South and Vine. Mm-hmm. I followed you down to 441 Public Kitchen, and I followed you to the Smoque Pit. And I ain't gonna lie to you. And I know a lot of people may not know this, but I'm a fan of your cooking, and I'm a fan of cooking, period. But I'm a fan of really intense and specific meals. You pay a lot of attention to detail, and you brought that attention to detail to barbecue.
Yeah.
So I want to know the mastermind process behind your specific, what I would say, your strategy behind your barbecue, man.
I I just use the same mentality when I'm cooking anything.
Sure.
Even if it's just scrambled eggs.
Right.
I want to execute the best scrambled egg I possibly can.
For sure.
So when it came to the Smoque Pit, I looked at all forms of barbecue. And just so everyone knows, I am not a pit master by trade. I did not spend years and years and years, lighting smokers and learning, the craft of barbecue.
Research.
I decided pretty much a little over a year ago that was a good thing for the space I was looking at. I rode past this space and I said, man, it just looks like a barbecue pit.
Yep.
So I should probably learn how to make barbecue.
That's deep.
And that's what I did.
That's simple.
You cannot and you will never learn all there is to learn about anything, about any craft. So what I did was what I tend to always do and throw myself, with both feet into whatever it is I'm trying to do at the time. So I started researching different types of meat, different types of wood, different types of seasonings, different types of techniques for brining and curing and smoking, and sort of took what I felt was the most pertinent for what I wanted to communicate,
right,
and put those principles in place. I've always been a fan of making things from scratch. I don't like prepackaged, pre-made things. I don't think that's the way we were ever meant to eat. So I don't do it that way. So you'll find flavors at the Smoque Pit that are familiar, but a little bit different. You'll find techniques that, again, are as old school as they get as far as burning wood to provide smoke and heat to cook a piece of meat. But you'll also find techniques like sous vide, or cooking under vacuum, or using very, very definite temperatures for extended periods of time, right, to get extremely consistent results. Right. Because in a restaurant, consistency is everything. If you come in one day and have something that's fantastic, and you come in with your friends the next time because you've told them about your fantastic experience and it was garbage, you are very unhappy, and you're also far less apt to return. I know. So, you ruined the friendship too. Yeah, so it is. You lied to me, dude. It is my responsibility to make sure that you, as our guest, leave happy, satisfied, and willing to tell your friends about your experience. Right. And when you come back, I want you to remain our guest. That's real. So consistency is key. Man, I was over here laughing because I remember the day you called me with the idea of opening the Smoque Pit, and you invited me to your house to try the brisket and the pork. And the pork, yeah. Yeah. Bro, I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I embarrassed myself. It got to the point, ladies and gentlemen, like when he told me that how many days did you smoke that? Well, the cooking process was 72 hours. 72 hours. And when I tell y'all, like when I first got there, I remember I was at the post office, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you, like whatever you're doing, you just need to get here. I'm like, man, what is it? You all right? He like, no. Are you gonna be okay? He like, dude, you got to try this. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll be there in a second. Bro, I walked in the house, man. He was just sitting there like an evil doctor. And I was just like, you all right, man? He like, come here. Like, come here. He said, now look at that. And I looked at it. It was a brisket. It was perfect. He was like, now I'm going to do something. He said, I'm going to pick the bone directly up out of here, and you're going to be amazed. I'm like, nah, you're not finna just, nah, man, you got to cut that off. He was like, watch me. The man just pulled it apart, man. And I sat up there and I was like, I don't know. Is that still beef? You were like, no, bro. Yeah, that's brisket, bro. And I like the first time I sampled the brisket, I swear, I don't know how you turn beef into some type of texture where it doesn't need to be warmed up anymore to be edible. But it was evil, and I didn't trust it, but I took some to go. Like, for real. And I took some to my lady, and it didn't make it. You know what I'm saying? It was just like that, man. I was supposed to save some, but I ain't gonna lie to you, man. When I sampled that first your first recipe straight off the smoker, man, I was like, you're literally gonna take this barbecue thing and you're gonna force your customers to grow in what they expect from barbecue. Like, I've never tasted anything like that before, man. And I can tell, I can actually
understand the 72 hours in every bite. Straight up. As a customer, bro. Like, I don't care if it sound weird what I'm saying. Y'all don't understand. If y'all ain't ever been to the Smoque Pit and had those ribs, the pulled pork, the brisket, the smoked chicken that people have to set their alarms every Friday and Saturday to make sure they don't forget. Because when I go to the restaurant, I'm like, hey man, what's up with this? You like, dude, you don't understand what goes into the smoked chicken. Just get here on Fridays and Saturdays, you'll be fine, right? And it's worth the wait every week, and now you're doing brunch on Sundays, man. Like, I've never heard of a barbecue pit doing brunch. Can you please let me know what kind of random, like what did that take for you to do that?
Well, I mean, people were requesting for us to be open on Sundays. Mm-hmm. So I figured if we're going to be open on Sundays, I might as well throw some old favorites and maybe some new twists on some old favorites on there. So we provided our shrimp and grits, which is, an experience in and of itself. Bro. Phenomenal. But then we did a take on eggs Benedict. We called it the barbecue Benedict. And we did our take on, a hash, with crispy potatoes and sauteed onions and peppers and our smoked meats and poached eggs, just fun stuff, because brunch is about, simple cooking and using eggs, because that's what brunch is.
And I see it packed out because Sunday is also one of the most laziest days in the kitchen for a lot of people. That's the reason. So Sunday is, and you only open from 11 to 3 on Sundays?
11 to 3.
Packed out, brunch, and you better get there at 10:54.
Don't get there at 10:54. don't do that. Please don't do that.
All right, I'll scratch that.
If y'all just give us till 11:15. We'll be all right.
Yeah, I'll be all right, man. Well, Shaney, I am not gonna lie to you, bro. Like, this has been one of the. I like learning from my interviews, man. Like, because this is what Manhood Mindset is about. We talk about certain things that the guest has been through, and anything that you all can teach to our audience, man. And honestly, you've been one of the best teachers we've had on the show. And I don't just say that to everybody. I think everybody's been a good guest. You've been one of our best teachers. And some of the concepts that you've joined for us tonight, that service and servants thing, I'm gonna have to grow with that. You know what I mean? It's a lot of concepts and a lot of kids that I meet that think they have to go above and beyond and hurt themselves just for humanity, and that's not the case. There's a lot of people put themselves in harm's way. I'm thinking about our elders of our family who've been in positions where they thought they had to put up with subservient attitudes and just horrible, people just taking their humanity away just because of their position. You know what I mean? So I want to have that conversation with them too.
Well, I mean, that was a real thing, and it still is for a lot of people. That is still reality. To treat human beings in subhuman ways is a sickness. It's a disease. Something is wrong with the individual that would do that would perpetrate that.
Straight up.
Sometimes they can be redeemed, but a lot of times they can't. Those people just have to go away.
Okay.
They just do. But to do that, we all as a group have to accept and say that this is wrong.
Right.
You can't turn a blind eye to inhumanity and expect it ever to go away. You have to look at it, stare at it for what it is.
Right.
And those who are, practitioners of inhuman behavior must be made to either change their ways or go away.
Straight up. We're going to close the end of the night. First of all, I want you to tell the audience how they can support your business. What's the best way they can support your business or get to know a little bit more about your business? And then I want you to finish with that last thought for the young people that's listening. So Smoque Pit, hit us with it.
So listen, I won't get into anything about supporting my specific business. I will just say, as a people, whenever you have an opportunity, support independent business. Look for that off the beaten path spot, that diamond in the rough, because those who decide to take on that fight, to take on something like, I'm just going to use my business, the food industry. Mm-hmm. It's an industry. There are people who have countless resources to put towards putting out products that they call food. Right. There are very few people cooking anymore in restaurants. Sure. And that cooking goes on in those independent restaurants.
Straight up.
It doesn't happen in chain restaurants. They might reheat. They might cook a piece of meat every now and then.
Right.
But the people who are willing to get up every day and do things in a much more difficult sense for your enjoyment, support those people. You know, that's what I want to communicate. When we do these things every day, we do it for you guys.
That's real.
And it makes us very happy to see y'all enjoy it. That means a lot to us.
That's real.
Now, you know, if our thing is not your cup of tea, that doesn't mean you don't go look for somewhere else or someone else.
Right.
Support your small businesses.
Straight up.
Because small businesses are it. If not, you end up with, you know, the Wally World Society. You know, we hear it all the time in this town. Oh, we want a real grocery store. We're tired of this Walmart situation, but you know, we get what we pay for.
That's deep.
That's where we spend the dollars. So that's what keeps thriving.
Money talks.
Find your individuals, find your small businesses, support them every chance you get.
Got you. And the last moment of the night, please give a final thought to the young man that's listening to you talk this evening. He probably is listening to some of the things that you're talking about. Some of the stuff is new to him. He really doesn't know if he fully understands it, but he felt something and he's going to at least try. What do you say to that young man?
Young people have to remember that and realize, not even remember, you have to realize that we were all you at some point.
Right.
We didn't know, we didn't have it all together. We had to figure it out. Mm-hmm. Those feelings you have of inadequacy and insecure, that's not wrong. Right. It's okay to feel that way.
Right.
But realize that it gets better.
Right.
You can achieve, you can accomplish. There is nothing that is out of your reach.
Right.
It might seem that way, it might feel that way. I mean, I have nephews and nieces that have absolutely blown my mind with their ability. Mm-hmm. You know? This thing that you're going through, this journey, it's difficult. It's meant to be. Mm-hmm. You know, this thing was never meant to be easy. Mm-hmm. So don't be discouraged. You know, believe in yourself, believe in humanity, believe that you will have opportunity. And just because you don't see it or it doesn't come when you think it should come, doesn't mean you stop playing the game. You know, you're already a winner. Remember that. There were millions and millions of other yous that could have been. You won. Everyone that gets a shot at life won at one point. Remember that. You're all winners. And I don't mean that in the everybody gets a trophy generation. You can still lose, and if you lose, you shouldn't get a trophy. But we are all winners.
That's what's up, man. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all so much for tuning in to Manhood Mindset with WVGS 91.9 and Buzz down here in Statesboro, GA, Georgia Southern Radio. I'm your host, Big Chris, man. Shaney, thank you so much, brother.
Anytime, brother.
Man, I'm gonna holler at you a little bit later, man. This is not your only time, bro. We got to bring you back in due time because I know you're a busy man. But in due time, man, I do want you to come back. Hopefully, we'll have some kids next time for you to talk to.
Well, you know I'm down.
For sure. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Big Chris Joker, on Facebook, Christopher Pugh, and on it's Instagram is Manhood Mindset. On Twitter is Big Chris Joker, and Facebook is Christopher Pugh. We represent Cedar Grove High School up in the building, man.
Saints pride.
Straight up, bro. Straight up. We Ellenwood strong, Cedar Grove strong, River Road representatives. All right, you understand what I'm saying? So thank y'all so much. A-Time, man. We appreciate everybody listening in. Everybody on Facebook Live. Thank you so much for the continued support. Go to the Smoque Pit. All right, I got perfect attendance in there. Matter of fact, you got your reward system, right?
There is a rewards program in place
for sure. And I just got my reward the other day. I'm due for my free meal, so I'll see you on Friday.
Come on, we got it.
Exactly. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all so much, man. Peace.